Candace Owens wants to know when we're going to bring freedom land down under.
When do we deploy troops to Australia? When do we invade Australia and free an oppressed people who are suffering under a totalitarian regime? When do we spend trillions of dollars to spread democracy in Australia? Australia currently, make no mistake, is a tyrannical police state. Its citizens are quite literally being imprisoned against their will. So when do we deploy?
Okay. So look, honestly, I watched this the first time and I thought, this got to be a bit. Is there a joke in here somewhere? There has to be a joke in here. So I know Candace Owens, not really known for her sense of humor, but regardless of that, tends to get laughed at a lot. Yeah, weird. But I can see why. No, like invading Australia. What the fuck? Honestly, what the fuck? Now, she also said that this is tyranny, the kind that gives birth to evil dictatorships and a human atrocity. We are watching a replay of the early ambitions of Joseph Stalin, Adolf Hitler, Fidel Castro, and Hugo Chavez. Also, she added that COVID-19 had propelled the planet into a, quote, ideological and psychological global war. No, okay, here's the thing, right? What this is to try to control the virus. Do I agree that, with all of the restrictions that are going on in Australia? No. Look, I don't always agree with the ways that certain countries, even our own country, has handled COVID-19 and some of the restrictions as well. But like, to compare it to Hitler, you're insane. Insane. You've got to be kidding me. And look, even now, some of the restrictions are actually starting to get eased because they've actually made progress against the virus. And that's good. And look, I understand lockdowns suck. They do. Lockdowns suck. I get it. It sucks to be locked down. It sucks to be restricted. All of that stuff sucks. I get it. But most people in Australia recognize that it was necessary to do, even if they don't like it. And again, you don't have to like it. You don't have to like doing the right thing. And in this case, you look at the results, right? And understand that despite the hardships, those public health measures adopted by the different places in Australia were mostly fairly popular and supported by the population because of the goal of trying to limit the deaths in Australia. And that's exactly what happened. Australia has had about 1,500 deaths and about 130,000 cases. So now, of course, Australia does have a lower population than the United States, which they compared, of course, to our death toll of 730,000 deaths and 45 million cases. And so, but when you look at it per capita, obviously, Australia has done much, much better in avoiding deaths and large caseloads than the United States. Those are facts. So they did lock down, and guess what? Less people died. And that was kind of the entire point. It literally does not make you the Taliban or Hitler. And again, those are more comparisons that they made. Oh, they're just like the Taliban. Oh, really? When did the Australian government start beheading people? What happened? When did that start? When did they start cutting off people's hands? Again, some of the measures, like I said, fairly draconian, right? In trying to put public health above everything else. And I get it that it is not fun, that it's annoying, not being able to go inside a McDonald's and sit inside for a cheeseburger, not fun. I want my cheeseburger, right? Well, that's not the same as decapitating people in the street. Especially considering that this entire thing is supposed to be temporary until the majority of the population is vaccinated. And so, but understand that Candace Owens is not the first right-winger to go after Australia for their COVID lockdowns, which, by the way, these right-wingers, why don't they worry about what's going on in America? I mean, are you supposed to be America first? Are you supposed to be America first? No, no, no. We have to go and criticize another country and then call them terrible and then call to invade them. Yes. So now another example here is Ted Cruz. Ted Cruz talked about how Australia is having COVID tyranny. COVID tyranny. And said that it was disgraceful, sad. He said individual liberty matters, and he had considered Australia the Texas of the Pacific. Well, of course, when you look at their reaction to climate change, it might be accurate, at least in that regard, because they haven't done a great job about climate change, even though the middle of their country literally uninhabitable as a result of incredibly high dangerous temperatures. So, but anyway, now of course, look, when it comes to individual liberty, of course that matters, right? Yeah. Well, so does public health, and you've got to find a happy medium here, right? So you have to, yes, you've got to respect individual liberty, but you also have to know and do the things that are good for a whole. And so it can be a very fine line sometimes between too much restrictions and too little. Now in America, we kind of had the opposite problem. We didn't go far enough. Okay, in a lot of situations, not just when it comes to COVID, but in a lot of situations, I think we give too much freedom that harms people. For example, our gun problem. For example, I think that's the best one where you can basically get weapons and go on shooting binges all the time, and it happens all the time in this country. And that's one example of, okay, maybe we're taking the individual liberty stuff slightly too far. We might want to put some regulations on that for the good of everyone else, and I'm just talking like common sense stuff too. And I know like everybody's super, super touchy when you start talking about restrictions, right? Restrictions. Oh my God, they're going to take our freedom and they're going to turn us into Nazi Germany. Nazi Germany, massively right wing. Just saying. But again, this is a nuanced conversation, but when it comes to public health threats, there is some logic with temporarily foregoing certain activity until those health crises are dealt with. And so that's what's going on here. Because believe me, understand that COVID is not being used as some excuse for a authoritarian one world government takeover. Okay? And so there's nothing more, that the capitalists want than to have COVID be over and for things to go back to the status quo. They want COVID to go away because they want to get back to business. They want to get back to selling things. They want to get everybody back to work and not have to pay benefits and doing all that stuff. They want normal. That's what they want. Because the status quo works incredibly well for these companies, for these corporations, and for the politicians. And so here in America, we got back to normal fairly quickly, right? We didn't have a proper lockdown. A couple of weeks went by and the corporate bosses are like, okay, we had enough of this. Yes, we're losing money, even though they made a ton of money during the pandemic. But no, let's get everybody back to work. Yeah, let's go, get back to work. Stop paying benefits. Take away the unemployment benefits. Take away the additional unemployment benefits. Get everybody back in the factory. Before they actually start to realize that they're getting screwed over. Oops, too late. Now we have a bunch of strikes and it's awesome. Now people are no longer, starting to accept the fact that they're getting screwed over anymore. They're like, hey, turns out I'm being underpaid and undervalued. I'm going to do something about this. Solidarity to the workers. Solidarity. So anyway, now that's what's going on here, okay? Now, as far as America, America was criticized for bumbling our response to COVID. But a decent chunk of the country and those in charge don't seem to give a shit about the human cost. It was all about trying to get back to business, get back to the corporations making money and get back to the status quo before people realized what was actually going on. It turns out when you kind of stay home and you're not working 2 or 3 uniquely American jobs, you start to think, maybe things could actually be better. So now for Cruz, the Northern Territory Chief Minister, Michael Gunner, responded to him with a statement sharing a few facts about COVID. He said, nearly 70,000 Texans have tragically died from COVID. There have been 0 deaths in our territory. Did you know that? No, he did not. You know nothing about us, he says, and if you stand against a life-saving vaccine, then you sure as hell don't stand with Australia. True. He also said, I love Texas, go Longhorns, but when it comes to COVID, I am glad we're nothing like you. That's a good response. One of my favorite, actually. So there's a couple tweets here responding to Candace Owens. One person says, I moved here to get away from her ilk. We're at 61 deaths per million compared to the US's 2,200 plus. We're doing just fine, thank you. We also get universal health care against our will, and everyone is forced to vote. The humanity! Brooke Minkowski says, I don't know if we should inflict Candace Owens on Australia. Over at the Herman Cain Awards subreddit, they call her Candace Omens because everybody who posts a meme from her seems to die of COVID-19 within 2 weeks. Oh no! Don't do that. And finally, somebody who I know is 100% an Australian, Dangerously Talented, posted this. Oh shit. They're going to install democracy on us, aren't they? You know, like in Afghanistan, and Iraq, and Vietnam, and all of Latin America, and Iran, and most of Africa, and Italy, and, well, yeah, you get the message. True. All true. I just have to say, Australia, from America, I extend to you my deepest apologies for people like Candace Owens and Ted Cruz and the right wing. Sorry. If you enjoyed this video, please give us a like and share with your friends. You can subscribe and help out the channel by becoming a patron. It's patreon.com/Jeff Waldorf, or you can become a channel member as well by hitting the join button below.